Hey, what are we talking about today?
Houston's Arctic blast.
Blast. Well, look, if you want to hear what we went through, what the city of Houston went through, stick around. We're getting after it right now. Hey everybody, you know what this channel is all about. It's all about Houston, Texas. The good, the bad, the ugly. We're going to talk about the worst winter storm that Houston's been through in forever, right? All the ugly. So if that's what you want to know about, if that's what you're into, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Ring that bell. That way you're notified every time we put out a new video. And look, if you like it, I know you like it, go ahead and give us that thumbs up. Hit that like button. It really helps us put this information out to more people. And when you, your family members, anybody you know is getting ready to move here to Houston, Texas, then
Give us a call.
Give us a call. Send us a text message. Send us an email. Heck, if you want to. She loves this. Is her favorite part. Send us a note via
Pony Express.
Any which way you want to reach out to us, we got your back when moving here to Houston. Now let's get into it.
All right.
Let's
do it.
It was Sunday night. No kidding. There we were.
So we had a little warning that there was going to be some cold weather, that week. It was going to, hit freezing. And I think the weather report said it was going to be 11 one night, which, okay. The weather people are almost never right here. I mean, that's the one thing you can pretty much count on.
Yep.
And so, we did a little bit of storm prep. I'm a little bit of a prepper by nature anyway.
You should see the pantry.
Well, when you live somewhere where hurricanes happen fairly regularly, you learn to be prepared. And so we certainly learned a lot last week of the difference of prepping for a hurricane versus prepping for an Arctic blast that honestly, I don't think either one of us or anybody in our family ever thought would actually happen here in Houston.
Right.
And guess what, guys? It did.
Right.
And, it's one thing you're going to go to Montana or Wyoming or Colorado and you know it's going to be cold and you prepare for it and you have heat and you have water and, it's a very different scenario than living in hot Houston and waking up and it's 11 degrees. So
one of the things that you and I both, when we were sort of prepping this and going over our notes, we both wanted to be sure and put this out. I mean, yeah, bad storm, ice, loss of power, water, we'll go through all those funny things, but you and I both, when we look back on it, we said we were blessed for a couple of reasons.
Extremely.
We're blessed for a couple of reasons. Well, I'm blessed because she is a prepper. She says a little bit, but she's a big prepper. But two, we live in a decent house. It's got good insulation. It's got modern piping, the Plex piping.
It's new, so it's really well insulated.
But then also the last thing is the city of Houston is just a great city. And the city of Houston's gone through some bad times, good times, hard times.
Flooding, hurricanes.
But I'm just amazed at how well everybody gets along. There were so many opportunities for human behavior to make a bad situation worse, and it just made it so much better.
And there were a couple of bad characters, I think, of course, as there are in any disaster.
Were very isolated.
For the most part, what we see in Houston is that these events typically bring out the best in people, which is amazing. Is it's just this opportunity to see Houstonians shine. I think Texans in general, there's just a very generous, giving spirit. And people love to help each other. Yeah. So, shall we dig in?
Yeah, Sunday night. You and I were...
we go to bed. We'd gone to the grocery store. We were prepared. We bought all this healthy food so we could make some really good soups that week and all fresh ingredients.
We were ready to kind of
we just had no idea what was about to happen. So we go to bed and we love to sleep with it cold, and so we turned the heat on, I think, that night, which we never ever do.
Just to kind of make sure
we'd gone to my parents' house and covered all their plants because they're big gardeners, and Kerry had told them not to drip their pipes, which as long as I've been alive, whenever it's gonna freeze, they always drip their water just to make sure that their pipes don't burst. So unbeknownst to me, Kerry told them, oh, you don't need to do that. This house is well
I thought we
insulated.
promised we weren't going to throw each other under the
Okay,
bus.
sorry.
I have been so supportive of you during this whole thing.
I don't know that it would have made a difference.
It would.
So
I talked to your mom.
yeah,
would
I don't
not
think it
have
would have made a difference. So just to kind of throw in some reality here. So we go to bed that night, you know, we had a great evening, and 5 o'clock in the morning, boom, we wake up. We have a fan that we sleep to. It's just the noise is kind of our little.
Yeah, and then you've got the battery.
noise.
You've got the battery reserve on your computer
On my
and your electronics.
computer, and it started beeping.
So whenever the power goes out, it immediately starts to
So
alarm.
we woke up and I looked outside and it was snowing, which was super exciting because it just doesn't happen very often here in Houston. So Kerry didn't want to get up.
Yeah.
You know, I was excited that it was snowing, and so anyway.
It started out as like, oh, this is going to be, you know, a little rolling outage, or we're going to be out for just a little bit, and we're going to have a great little snow day or snow time. Right?
I think Monday of last week was the longest day of my life since I was a kid.
Yeah.
So there was obviously no school.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got 2 teenagers that were home all day with us. And so we just layered up our clothing because, you know, at first it wasn't so bad, but it got pretty cold inside pretty quickly. So we were bundled up.
Yeah, but we just spent that first day playing cards, playing board games, and just really kind of...
We have a great new game we got for Christmas. We played that all day.
And just kind of chilling, and because, you know, there wasn't much you could do.
We have gas for our cooktop, so we were able to cook on the gas top if we needed to. So we actually had a really good breakfast. And
But then when the power never came back on, you're like, okay, well, now we have to figure out how to boil water to do dishes. We, you know, even though we had our phones charged up, there was a lot of cell phone disruption and internet disruption. So communication at first was real
hard.
sketchy.
Communicating with my parents was difficult, and we were worried about them just because they were on their own. And then I think we found out that first morning that their pipes had frozen.
Yeah.
And so they had no water.
And no power.
And so very, very fortunate that they have 2 fireplaces, one in their bedroom and one in their living room. And so they were able to kind of shut the house off into those 3, like the kitchen,
living room, and
their bedroom, and able to stay warm. The water thing, though, was a little bit of a situation. We won't tell you how they handled it, but we wound up, once the ice was gone, or we was safe to drive the next day, we wound up...
I drove out there. It wasn't safe, it wasn't advisable, but it was a lot better than having your parents at the house without having
So we took them, because we had water, and we weren't thinking we were going to lose water, but I mean, we would have taken it to them anyway.
Yeah.
So we took them we'd already, before the pandemic started, I had bought them this big jug of water, and anyway, they had a crock, so they were able to put it on and use that, and we brought them a bunch of flats of water. So then we
brought them another.
We brought them more, and so they were able to keep going throughout the week. So that was great. Monday night rolled around, and we started getting, gathered all of our flashlights.
Candles.
One of the things that I'd prepped for was we had plenty of batteries and candles and lighters and matches.
Yeah.
Right? Although I did buy those Faro sticks. We didn't have to use them, but
for those of you, the
case.
Faro sticks are those things where you spark off a little thing to light fires.
Stuff.
No, we didn't get that desperate.
You're out in the wilderness. So we had so many candles lit downstairs that it actually warmed us up.
A little bit. Yeah.
I mean, it did. It was pretty warm. And then we didn't take any candles upstairs. We just took the flashlights upstairs. And we have those great, I should have brought one in for the video, but we have flashlights that are like lanterns with LEDs. So they're pretty bright. You can just take them in a room and actually have light, like brush your teeth, that kind of thing.
Right. But by the end of that first day, and we didn't have any power coming back on, we were both starting to get a little bit kind of, because it's, first it's fun, but then you have to put so much thought and planning into doing everything. Okay, how are we going to cook? What are we going to cook? How are we going to clean everything up? You have to boil the water.
Paper plates having disposable cups, plates, even flatware is actually a really good idea, just because having to boil water every time you wash a dish, it's a whole thing. And especially if your pipes are frozen and you don't have water, that can be impossible. So one of the things we wish we had done differently was that we would have had more disposable,
But even with that, if you're cooking your own food, you still have pots, pans, utensils involved in cooking. And my thing was, yes, that's a great point, but the point I was making is it's just so much effort into cleaning or doing anything because it took so long to boil water or get things. Little known fact. Even if you have a tankless water heater and it runs off of natural gas, if the electricity's out, it still won't run because of the computer controls in there. So even though we had
water, we weren't bathing. Yeah. It was freezing, frigidly cold water. And in fact, by Tuesday,
it took a long time to boil everything.
Like up in our bathroom, at the sink, the hot water wasn't working at the sink, and so I put a big candle underneath the
fire
sink, which is a fire. I watched it, and eventually it actually pushed whatever ice was in there out, and I was able to get water flowing again. And then I did that at the side of the tub, and it actually was enough warmth to get the tub water going on the hot side. So that was actually a big saving grace, because it enabled us later in the day, when the water pressure started going down, to fill up the tub.
Yeah.
So back to something that we should have done that we didn't do the first night was Sunday night when we went to bed, we should have filled all the bathtubs and sinks with water.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have water, it's something people don't think about, but you can't flush your toilets.
Yeah.
Right? We had plenty of bottled water for drinking, cooking, that kind of thing, but you don't really want to use that water to flush your toilets, because that's going to be, we saw some hilarious memes this week. I think my favorite one was, it was like, it's 10 degrees outside and, 30 degrees in your living room, but your toilet seat is, -5.
Or we finally reached the stage where everybody has toilet paper, but now nobody has toilet water. So.
And then, of course, my favorite one, which is sort of like flash forwarding a little bit, but my favorite one was just a friend wrote it, and it was literally, I'm so glad the power's back on so we can turn our AC on. Because, of course, a week later, it's almost 80 degrees.
Right.
Which is Houston.
So with the power out, one of the ways we had the kids literally out, we bundled them up, threw some blankets on them, and they were out in the garage, not in the garage, but
in the car.
Yeah, the front driveway. Charging up the cell phones.
Oh my gosh, they had the heat rolling, so they were.
I know,
they were happy as could be. They had entertainment, eat. But that's how we kept our cell phones charged, so that we could stay in communication. Although the service was super sketchy for cell service and internet, so that was not great.
So George Henry, our son, worked at HEB, and he's a bagger, and
which was a grocery store.
Grocery store. If you've caught any of our other videos, you know all about HEB. But George Henry, they send out this emergency, anybody who can get to the store, come on in, because there were so many people.
She was delighted, the opportunity to make more money. He worked all week.
But I take him in, drop him off, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to go in and grab it, because we were good. But there was a couple of things. I wanted some tortillas, and we
wanted to get ice to put in our freezer. Yeah. We have a big deep freeze to make sure that all of our meat didn't go bad, that kind of thing.
But anyway, so I go up there and I'm like, oh, I'm here at this little line and I'm gonna work my way around. And man, I was out there for a long time because the line literally wrapped around and around the store before I could get in. And once I got in, everything was, the shelves were kind of empty, but we got what we needed. It was just quite the experience.
So one of the things that we didn't do that I think we should have done was to call the power company or email them to complain, or just notify them, I shouldn't say complain, to notify them that our power was out.
Because it was out, started out Sunday night, all day Monday, all day Tuesday, And by that time, lots of people were getting power back, getting back on, and it was really...
Or they had rolling power.
Yeah, or rolling where they'd get, and we just didn't have anything.
Which I think was, from the people that we talked to, it was more frustrating, the people that had the rolling blackouts versus just having it on or off. Just because you get it, you kind of get all excited, you get warmed up, and then boom, it goes out again. So it's...
But just before the power went on, it was starting to get really, really cold. It was no longer fun. Hey, it was like, it's really cold in here. What are we gonna do?
You can't work because you don't have, electricity, and you've got to save your battery on everything. And so, yeah, day one is great. Day two, you're kind of like, okay. Like, I spent the day cleaning and organizing, and also because the movement kept me warm because it was freezing in here. So probably about 5:30 maybe, we heard from our really good friends that they live in an old bungalow built in the early 1900s.
Here in the Heights.
And they're actually getting ready to tear it down and build a new house. But they haven't moved out yet. And so the insulation, as you can imagine, is probably non-existent. And their pipes, it's pier and beam, so their pipes are all exposed underneath the house. And so they heard their pipes burst in the middle of the night, and they were just freezing cold. And they've got a 3-year-old, an 8-year-old, and 2 large boxer dogs. And so
very playful,
very rambunctious. And so they were getting kind of desperate, and were having a hard time finding somebody to take them in with their 2 dogs. And they didn't want to leave their dogs,
of course, right.
Because that just wouldn't have been a viable thing to do. And so we were like, please just come over, So at that point, I think by 6 o'clock, our power came on. So we really strongly encouraged them, just come on over, pack up. We don't have, at that point, our water had gone out.
Right.
And so we just said, come over, but just know we don't have water, and you'll have to follow the rules about how to handle that.
We'll spare the public the private rules about when to flush and when not to flush, and how to conserve water.
How to do that, where the bucket goes, all that kind of thing. So, it was pretty interesting. But you know what? This is a family that we've traveled with before, so we all do really well together. And so imagine we had 2 teenagers, a 3-year-old, an 8-year-old, 2 boxers, and 4 adults. So we actually had a really good time.
We did. We sang some karaoke.
They brought their karaoke machine. So we had Arctic karaoke.
We played card games and played board games. And
we had a great time. And then, of course, that went on for 2 days. And then by Thursday, or was it Friday?
I forget, Thursday or Friday, when
we were finally able to go take a shower. So our friend's dad,
I say we,
I was, and the kids and I and our friends. So her dad lives,
I had to stay back because we had all the valves open, waiting for some sort of water to flow back in.
He opted to do that, which was wonderful because we were out of water and we weren't going to be able to flush our toilets, and it was going to be a problem.
Yeah, it was kind of at that end.
So he stayed here, and sure enough, we got some water pressure back that afternoon, and he was able to fill up 1.5 tubs kind of thing. Yep. And then the kids and I went with our friends, and we were able to take hot showers
down in Sugar Land.
I think she even ordered pizza. So we had pizza. It was like a little bit of a party, and we drove all the way to Sugar Land and did that. And then by the time we came back, the water had gone off again. Right. I just don't think there was enough pressure yet. There's probably enough leaks in the line, and so.
Then it was the next morning that we finally had power and water.
And it was just heaven. It was wonderful. I mean, when it all finally came back together, it was wonderful. But we honestly, we lived so well. I mean, we cannot complain. There were so many people. Yeah. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you. I've got clients that have houses on the market, and imagine trying to sell your house, and then you have pipes burst. It's inside, and now you've got a big hole in the wall. You get the plumbing fixed, but then you've got to let it dry out a week, and then before they can come back and re-sheetrock and
your
paint.
Parents, as soon as water came back on, where their pipe was busted,
which was in the garage, which was I mean, the best place possible for it to happen, but they had so much water gushing out of the ceiling that my mom just kept filling up these. We had 5-gallon buckets that we actually left over there for them, and she would fill that up, and then she said, and like what, I don't know, I forget how many minutes. It was like every 5-10 minutes or something, it would fill up a whole 5-gallon bucket. And so they wound up having plenty of water to keep their toilets going and all that kind of good stuff. So it was fun. We made the most of it. It was an adventure. And now we will definitely, there are a few things that we'll do differently.
Sure.
I'm going to buy more candles.
Yeah.
And, you know.
But I think to sort of wrap it up, everywhere we went, I got a flat tire in the middle of all that. So out there in the freezing, and the spare was flat. But you know, and I went down to the tire shop, got all that fixed, and it was still freezing and it was still cold. But you know, you talk to everybody there, and everybody asks, "Oh, how are you guys doing? Do y'all have power?" No, we don't have power. Do you have water? And just there were so many people who, despite being in a really bad place, really reached out and was concerned about everybody else and pitched in. And I don't want to say it was a great experience, but it was an experience in which you know, the true metal of Houston was exposed.
Yeah. I don't think my dad is 82, and in his lifetime, and another friend's dad is 85, and they've both, you know, lived in Houston, or grew up here, and have never ever seen this happen before. So
I think in summary, if this hasn't scared you all and you're still thinking about or considering moving here to Houston, we'd love to help you.
We would.
And why don't you just go ahead and give us a call, send us a text message, shoot us an email, or if you want to,
just send it via Pony Express. Express. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to help you.
Any which way you want to get in contact with us, we've got your back when moving here to Houston. We'll see you soon.